So like, obviously you picked up, and this is what I love, like you picked up something new and you started to do something completely new. So can you tell us a bit more about what that is? Because I don't want to drop any spoilers just now. And I guess how
Yes.
that started.
Yes. So, during the pandemic, when you're at home with your X-month-old, you're either spending time with him, or then while he's napping, you just kind of like want to zone out and go on social media. So for me, I would go on Instagram, and I slowly started discovering roller skating. Like, I slowly started seeing it pop up on my feed, and seeing beautiful men and women just jam skating. So jam skating is a style of skating where you're just like dancing on roller skates and doing all these elegant and fun moves. And I was like, oh, this is like so neat. And I would like start liking them. And you know how Instagram and Facebook's algorithm works, they slowly start popping up on your feed. And I'm like, this would be pretty fun to try, because during that time it was like spring, like around spring, summer, when I started to discover it. And I'm like, you know what, maybe I should look into getting a pair of skates. Like, maybe this is something that would be fun for me to try out, and a part of me was kind of holding back, because I was like, oh, well, what if I don't like it? Then I'm just going to have a pair of skates just collecting dust. And then I'm like, well, what if I will like it? So I went online, found myself a pair of skates. It's really hard. At the time, it was really hard to find a pair of skates, because during that time, I think a lot of men and women were getting into roller skating. Like, it was like
That's
this
cool.
trend that was happening. So I ended up finding myself a pair of decent quality skates, and picked them up, and took them. Where did I first start skating? I just took it to like an empty basketball court near my house while Jaden was sleeping, and my husband Mason would stay at home and look after Jaden, and went for a skate. And that was when it happened. I fell in love with roller skating, and yeah, I thought I would be this jam skater, like, but it turns out after a few times roller skating, I started discovering people who were park skating. So park skating is a different form of skating. It's like a little bit more of like the extreme sport category, where you would roller skate in half pipes and bowls, and you go to the skate parks and you go off jumps and stuff like that. So I think that extreme, because I'm a pretty extreme adventurous person, so I think that extreme side of me was like, oh, you know what? No, jam skating is not for me. You know what? I'm going to try that. There's a skate park near my house, so I'm going to try it out. And I jumped it. I crawled into the bowl, because I didn't know how to drop in, is what you call it. And I started just flopping around, rolling around like a fish, not knowing what I was doing, but I loved it. I fell in love with it.
What was it like the first time you turned up at the skate park? Because, I remember when I went snowboarding for the first time, I'd bought all this equipment, and, when you're new to something, you're not really sure if you're buying the right stuff. So you're kind of going on someone's word if that's the right snowboard, or the right jacket, the right helmet. And yeah, obviously you're brand new at it. So what was that like?
Yeah, well, for me, it was, oh my gosh, I don't think I'd ever been to a skate park before. I mean, I skateboarded when I was 16, when I was younger. But I was just like, I never ended up at the skate park. So I didn't know what that feeling was. But so my first time at the skate park was when I started roller skating. And for me, I was really intimidated just driving there. I was like, oh no, are there going to be skateboarders there? Like, are they going to be like, oh, what is this roller skater here doing? Like, I was worried about being judged, being judged for being a roller skater, being judged for being a female in a male space. Like, not saying that the parks are male space, but like a lot of the times there's I find there's more male skateboarders
Yeah.
at the skate park than females. And yeah, it was really nerve wracking. And I was like, you know what, just push through these feelings. Like, you made it here. Like, let's just put on your roller skates. I think I had, you had mentioned gear. I had purchased, I think I had purchased the bare minimum. It's like wrist guards and knee pads. Because when I had purchased my roller skates, I was like, going to be jam skating. I didn't think I'd find myself at the park. And then I had brought my husband's bike helmet with me, just to stay on the safe side. And I'm standing there at the top of the bowl, and there was this man who was skating. He was just dropping in, skating around in the bowl. And I was like, okay, I'm like, you just drop in. And I was like, okay, maybe I can just drop in. I'm like looking down. I'm like, no, there's no way I can do it. I think it was like a 7-foot drop in. And
yeah.
And I'm like, no, I can't do it. And I was like, well, how am I going to get in? And then, well, how am I going to get out? And I'm like, you know what? Just get in. You'll figure it out. I told myself. And I crawled in and skated around in the pool, figured out how to go back and forth. I was like, I look like an idiot right now, but this is so much fun. And I think as soon as I got in the bowl and started skating around, I think that's when all my fears of judgment like disappeared, because those feelings, that joy and fun, like accomplishing like this challenge, it just surpassed those negative feelings that I was feeling.
Yeah, I love that for so many reasons. Like, you overcame the fear of becoming a beginner again. And I think that's something that probably gets harder and harder as life goes on. So I think that's something that I love, and I love that story for that reason. And then, just even the understanding like because anytime you do something new, you almost subconsciously look for what the etiquette is of the new situation. So it's like, in a snowboarding sense, it's like, how do I get onto the ski lift? When is it my turn and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So you've got all this kind of stuff to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did have to figure that out, because when I started going to the skate park, I was a mom on mat leave who had some extra time on her hands when her son was sleeping. So I would go during the day when people were working, or I would go early morning, because during that time when I started, it was summer. So there were also some kids there skateboarding or on their scooters, but most of the time when I went, it was empty. But during the times when I went, when it started getting busy, I think it's like common sense to like wait your turn. Like you kind of, it just kind of comes to you, like, when you see a lineup, you wait in the back of the line, stand in the front of the line. And it's like the same common sense at the skate park. If you're with, if there's 10 people there, it's just like, okay, who went? Okay, if I just came in, okay, I'm going to be like the 10th person. And I'm, you just kind of like keep track of that. But sometimes, there would be people, there'd be more chattier people. And then so when it's their turn, and, for me, I was always like, any time that I got to skate, it was like, I'm on a time limit, I only got like 45 minutes to skate. So it's like, are you go? So it's like, it's your turn now. Like, are you gonna go? Can I go? Like, and when you're caught up in that situation, that's when you just ask like, hey, it's your turn. You go, and they'll be like, no, it's okay, you can go. So over time, you just kind of learn, it's common sense, but over time, you'll learn etiquette. Or like when someone, nails down a trick, people like stomp their feet, or, you hear skateboarders like slap their skateboard and stuff like that. It's just to like cheer people on, and you're like, oh yeah,